Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Women on Top podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and with over 15 years of business experience, I became truly passionate about finding ways to support and hear from way more women. And what we know to be true is that women thrive when they are in their favorite position, on top in business, in relationships, in personal growth, and on top in being real and authentic to who the hell they are. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the Women on Top podcast. Welcome back to the Women on Top, everyone. I'm so thrilled that you're here. And today I have such a special guest. I cannot wait. I feel like this might potentially be one of those conversations where there's just so much there. I might have to invite her back again because I want to cover so much ground. And we're going to be talking a little bit about relationships. So today I have with me Teal Elisabeth. And Teal is the CEO and founder of Relax into Love Coaching, which really focuses on ambitious women and helping them build like authentic and rich and meaningful, healthy relationships, not only with their partners or romantically, but also really with themselves. And as a spiritual love and relationship coach, Teal really has this specialty in working with like feminine energy. So she specializes in that. She's also NLP certified and does subconscious reprogramming, which I think is really amazing. I've had some of that done myself, and it was a game changer. So I love that you use that in your practice, Teal. Teal is also really just living this out in real time in her life. And she has, been married for over 10 years. She's traveled the world as this nomadic entrepreneur. And recently she's had her son in her life as well. So that's been a really beautiful chapter for her family. So anyways, Teal, I am just so grateful that you said yes to jumping into an episode together. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Valerie. That's such a beautiful introduction. Yeah. And I guess I should add, I'm pregnant with my next baby too right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I almost forgot
dreams
we talked about that last time. Yes.
I know, it just keeps going. I just keep living the dream.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Such a good, testament to the work that you do too, of how the better it gets, the better it gets. And I think the more work that we continue to dive into for ourselves, the more that we uncover those layers, the beauty that can unfold from that. And I love your story. And you can really just feel your energy and passion for what you do. And I think that's really powerful, right? Like, I feel like we have a lot of folks who maybe are doing work in the world, but aren't always sure why or don't always understand where it comes from. So I'd love to just have you kind of jump in. Like, where does your work come from? I'm really curious about the name Relax into Love. And it made me wonder if you can add to this, if you think that most people are not relaxed in love.
Yeah. Oh, so much to say. Where do I begin? Well, I will say the name Relax into Love actually was completely divinely inspired. As we were talking about cleaning out closets, I was cleaning out my closet, about to embark on my, 2.5 year traveling the world with the love of my life journey. And I was starting my online business. I just quit my corporate job. I was like, oh my God, I'm starting a business. I don't even know what to call it, blah, blah, blah. I'm cleaning out my closet. And it just dropped in, Relax into Love. And I realized, oh my God, that is it. That is absolutely it. Because up until recently in my life at that point, it had been very unrelaxing. It had been very stress-filled, anxiety-filled. And I know that so many women relate with that. And it's almost like that one thing in life that you can't just check the box and go get. And I know that was my story. It was like I had checked the box on all the other parts of my life, and I felt so ambitious and happy and productive that I had achieved all these things, and I could not achieve happy, fulfilling, loving relationship with the man of my dreams. And it just frustrated me so much. And I'll more into that story later. But yeah, relaxing into love to me is about just really the essence of what it really feels like, which is what every woman I think wants, that feeling of just like, I don't have to think about this. I don't have to stress about this. Like literally imagine yourself just relaxing into this man's arms and feeling held and feeling protected and just feeling like, yes, like I can drop in. And that's what I help women do now. And it's incredible.
I haven't heard it said this way in the sense of like, the relationship, the healthy relationship, that loving relationship is not really this tangible box you can always just check. Like you can't, I don't know, you just can't action your way through it. You can't masculine energy your way through it. You have to find ways to tap into that feminine center. And I think that's so interesting because I share similar stories with you in the sense of I was really good at being ambitious and really taking over my life and really being able to check those boxes and go after the education, the career, and all of that. But I struggled a lot when it came to my romantic relationships. And I would say also, I struggled a lot with the relationship with myself. And I didn't really realize that. So, how do you help people, come back to themselves? Because I feel like this is a big part of the journey that we go on when we're really looking for love. Are we really also looking for something within us?
Oh yeah. I love it. You're just going right there.
Just like get into
Yes. If
it.
you had asked me back then, well, you just need to love yourself more and it'll all work out, I would have been like, F you.
Right, right.
I love myself just fine. I'm great. I'm confident. I'm a badass. Don't tell me I need to love myself more.
Yeah.
But what I didn't realize for myself, I had fallen into this pattern that I now call the hook and fizzle, where I would hook men in with this allure of being this independent, fun person. And then a few weeks or a few months into dating me, it would just fizzle away, or they would just dump me on the spot. And I got into this pattern for over 8 years in my life, which was so frustrating for someone that is so ambitious that can just go get things. To have this continually slip through my fingers and happen over and over again was so frustrating. And it really started to erode my own self-confidence and my own self-esteem. Like, what is wrong with me that I can't get a man to stick around? And all my girlfriends would be like, oh my gosh, you seem so great. Like, why don't men see what we see? And I'm like, I know, I don't get it either. But what I didn't realize, and what it really took me doing a lot of my own soul searching, was realizing that I had this massive wall, subconscious wall around my heart. And I had been severely brokenhearted back in college. And I didn't realize that I had this huge shield and guard up around my heart. And it did take me really going back within myself and loving on those parts, healing those parts, looking at those deeper fears, looking at those deeper beliefs, the belief like, I don't need a man and I'm fine on my own. And yeah, I'm scared to be vulnerable because I don't want to get hurt. All those things that to me were ways of holding my strength were actually weaknesses that were scary things I didn't want to go into within myself, which to me is actually more of an act of self-love, of looking at those things. So helping women today, and now that I've kind of moved through so much of this myself, is I almost look at it as like we are these little beings of light and love energy. Right. When we are birthed on this planet, you think about a little being, a little baby, it's like the most pure essence of love and light.
Mhm.
And over time, we have experiences as we go out into the world, and some of those are negative or traumatic experiences. And I call those experiences layers of mud that start to almost cover that light shininess of our essence. And if we don't take time to look at those and heal those and clean those off, they just start to pile on and pile on and pile on unconsciously, until next thing we know, we become so buried in our own mud layers, we don't even realize that we're so disconnected from our light and from our love essence. And then what ends up happening is the mind starts coming in and going, well, we need to take care of you. We need to survive in this world. So let's just take over. And that's when the stress and the anxiety and the overthinking and the overfunctioning and all that masculine energy conditioning that we're so used to really just kicks it up a notch. And we just get into go, go, go mode. And this is where I was, and this is where majority of my clients come to me from, where it's they just feel so disconnected from their light, or just so confused about why they can't relax or why they can't really connect to their intuition. And it's not that there's anything wrong with you or that you're broken or anything. It's just that we become very disconnected from our inner self. And so my work with women is twofold. One, to help them reconnect to that feminine essence that that has been really lost in our society, I think, of it's slowly starting to make a comeback, but helping remember that we are actually feminine beings. We don't have to be masculine beings, even though that's been very celebrated in our world. And two, to start to rinse away those layers of mud and help women come back home to that light within them.
Mm. What was it for you that caused you to have all these realizations? Was it someone or certain circumstances where you realized, gosh, I need to do some massive work here? Like, what was that inspiration for you?
Yeah, there were two things. The first thing, I mean, luckily I have, even though I felt very disconnected and had a lot of layers of mud that I didn't even know were happening,
Right.
I did still have a really good sense of my intuition. And my intuition after college said, you need to go travel
Mm.
with your girlfriend. This was before I traveled with my husband. I went to Southeast Asia and just kind of followed the breadcrumbs of my intuition, and it led me to a Buddhist temple in Thailand. And I ended up checking myself into a 5 day silent meditation retreat. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I was just like, this is something I need to do.
Wow.
And it was, oh my gosh, Valerie, it was the most profound experience I think of my entire life. I mean, the first few days, my mind would not shut up, and I was just like sitting there, I'm bored, I'm lonely, I'm hungry. Like, when is this going to end? Thinking about everything else. And at the end of day three, that monkey mind just quieted down. And I literally had an out of body experience. Like the kind of experience that people talk about when they have a near death experience and they're in a coma. I
Mhm.
literally had that while I was meditating on a mountain in Thailand, where my soul drifted up out of my body, floated up above my head, about 10 feet above me, and then looked down at my body, just sitting down there, even though it's up there like a hot air balloon, and then zoomed back down into my body just to make sure I hadn't died. And
Wow.
it was such a moment for me to just go, holy shit, like there is something so much bigger than what I have been operating in up until now. And it gave me such a deep understanding of the mind and the body and the spirit and how there are actually three parts of our whole essence. And from that point, it was almost like the Matrix. It opened my eyes to the whole underworkings of energy and the
Yeah.
energetic world that we live in as human beings, as sentient human beings. And I began to go out into the world from that place of what if I actually really lead from a place of energy? And then when I got back from my travels, I ended up being drawn into this relationship coach and then ended up learning about feminine energy. And then I love the work so much. I just started just wanting to master feminine energy and became a coach around it. And then it just kind of took me into this whole world of, yeah, deepening into that embodiment essence of energy and feminine essence. And that ended up changing everything and attracting in my now husband.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. What an amazing story. This needs to be made into a movie, I feel like, by the way.
I'm working
But
on my book right now.
okay, very good. So everyone stay ready for that to come out at some point. But I really appreciate, just your story of following the intuition and then having that realization that there's more here and really, I think just following that, like those nudges and then that getting quiet is so true. It's such a game-changing moment when you can start to really like listen to yourself and or just maybe not listen at all for some moments because we just have so much chatter happening. So I love that you had that experience. I've sometimes wondered what would it be like to go into a 5 day silent retreat, something like that. And it,
Need to
part of
just
it.
start hosting them and see if people would be interested because it's gnarly and it's next level, but I think women are ready for it.
I think so. I think so. And I do feel like there's a softening that happens within that, not only physically, but obviously mentally too. So I love that you were able to, from that place, like, attract these relationships and then, learn so much about feminine energy and really embody this part of yourself and live it out. So relationships it can be so challenging. I mean, gosh, we could just spend the entire time talking about relationship dynamics, but I feel like we don't talk about, and this is just this might be a selfish question, but I don't feel like I've heard much talked about when you go from, okay, I'm going to heal on my own because I have a similar journey. I healed a lot on my own. I felt really good. And then I attracted my partner, who's still my partner, which is amazing now. But I attracted him and then it was hard. Like, and so what I'm trying to say is, I feel like we don't talk about that part. Like it's all about the self work and do all that. Then you feel good and then you meet someone. And then what? Because
Mm.
my world was like, oh gosh, like I have to there just was a lot there. So can you talk a little bit about that and what happens when you're relearning what a healthy
Yeah.
relationship means?
Yes, I love that you're asking that question because you're right. I don't even get asked that very often. And it's not something I talk about that often. The first year or so of us dating was very difficult. Um, and it took every ounce of my self-confidence to stand up for what I knew I wanted, what I needed, what I deserved, how I was going to be treated. And I think it was the universe testing me of like, okay, like, are you going to go back to your old ways or are you going to actually have what you want? And it's such an important part of the journey that I think a lot of women start to second guess because they're like, oh, but he's hot and cold. And I thought he was the one. And now he's being, this and that. And it's actually, no, no, no. This is still part of your growth journey. Hey, hey, hey. Sheep in wolf's clothing.
Yes.
um, so for me, I mean, yeah, the first year of my now husband and I dating, I mean, we'd been working together. So that was a whole nother dynamic that we were trying to like avoid being found out at work. But when we quit that job and kind of did our own thing, yeah, there was a lot of hot and cold. There was a lot of him just not fully wanting to commit. And at one point, I remember, and I even talk about this in a lot of my courses, there was a moment where I literally said to him, I love you. I'd never said I love you to any man before. I love you, and I'm breaking up with you.
Mm.
That was the hardest thing I've ever had to say. To literally walk away from the first man that I felt like I loved. Well, I guess beside the guy in college, but we're not going to go there. That was young love. But that to me was such a sense of standing up for what I know I deserved. And I knew I deserved more. And I knew he had the potential to give me more, but he was being a little chicken about it. And I knew that if I didn't stand up for that, he would keep being his old bachelor self.
Mm.
And I remember him in that moment going, oh, okay. And we broke up for about 2 months. And it was a really, really hard time for both of us. We did not talk for 2 months. I actually ended up starting to date somebody else who was so much more evolved in all the ways that I wanted. Thank you, universe, which again shows you it's not a scarcity thing. There's always more at the next level, but are you ready to step into that next level? Or are you going to keep playing in the spheres of comfort that you've been in? But I
Mhm.
was saying to myself, to the universe, to him, hey, I'm stepping into the next sphere of relationship of what I know I want and where I belong. Are you coming with me or not? And at that time, he said, I respect that. I don't know if I can give you that. Let's break up. And then I moved on. I met somebody new. He was fabulous. We started dating. And guess who came crawling back 2 months later and said, you know what? I want to be that man for you. And
Wow.
luckily, I mean, in my eyes, there never was anybody else. It had always been him. I was hoping he would get to that point, and he did. But that doesn't happen for everybody, and it's okay. And it's not something that has to be that way because there are so many other amazing men that are waiting for you at that level. It's just, are you ready to make that jump? And are you willing to take that scary jump and pay the price of actually having what you want that I think a lot of women are very scared about to do?
Yeah. And I think the other beautiful thing that you are talking about is really holding that boundary and knowing I need this and I'm now going to leave because you're telling me that you're not able to give that. And I feel as though if you hadn't done all of the work to get to that point, you wouldn't have held that boundary probably.
Yes, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And this is the thing I love teaching on and coaching women through too, is that men really look to women to guide the emotional space, the emotional landscape, to actually show that it's safe to go into our feelings and hold that emotional inner strength. Whereas like we look to men to hold that physical strength and that protector energy and, open the door when it's dark and take care of the scary bad guys. But when it comes to emotions and the relationship space, that's really where they're looking to us to kind of guide things and lead things. And so when I was able to stand in that place of real emotional vulnerability, it's like, I love you, but I know I want this, and I'm not putting pressure on you, but this is where I know I need to go. He respected me so much for that. And it was the oh shit moment that I talk about, where he said, oh shit, if I don't step up my game, if I don't grow, if I don't mature as a man, I'm going to lose her. That
Mm.
he needed that kick in the pants to step
Mm.
into his next level of maturity and growth.
Yeah.
And I wonder how many women have the guts and the courage to
Yeah.
hold that stance and hold that place for their men to grow, because we really can inspire men to grow and change. We don't want to force them, and we don't want to, it's the carrot or the stick analogy with the donkey. We don't want to be smacking them, and a lot of women try and smack their man into growing. We don't
Yeah.
want to do that, but when we can be that muse and we can be that inspiration for them, it is the
Hmm.
most magnetic and alluring thing as that a man needs and wants from a woman.
Hmm. I think the other thing that you mentioned that I've heard is that men respond, or like, I can't remember, but they need respect and women need love or something like that. I don't know if that's correct, but it kind of sounds like that's similar to what you're talking about too, of how do we respect them? And respect doesn't come with nagging.
Yes, yes, because I very easily could have come to him and said, "Why won't you spend time with me more? Why haven't I met your family yet? Why won't you include me in your life more?" Meh, 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 meh. And I didn't do any of that. I said, "You know what? I'm noticing that there's a big gap in what I'm feeling I need in this relationship. And I understand if that's not where you're at and that's not what you can give me, but this doesn't work for me and this doesn't make me feel good. And
Yeah.
so I love you, but I need to walk away so that I can go get what I need.
Yeah.
And I really wish you the best. And I wish that could be you, but if that's not you, that's okay."
Hmm.
And that was what allowed him to go, whoa, okay. Like I respect that. And
Hmm.
actually, I love that. And now I get to really ask myself, why am I acting this way? Is this really what I want? And
Yeah.
from that place, he was able to make that decision to move forward.
We've had a couple, we didn't have that kind of situation, but at the beginning it was really hard. Like I would say the first year-ish was pretty interesting. And not because we didn't like love each other. Obviously the love was there, but there were a couple moments where I had to hold that and say, this is really what I'm looking for. But then I also would say on the other side of that, I had a lot of work to do in the sense that I was very used to this roller coaster ride. I was very used to, if it isn't like highs and lows and kind of everything in between, then it's not passionate. It's not
Mhm.
love. It's not my soulmate. Oh my gosh. And so I was like, wait, everything's good.
Right.
And I almost would invent, like, I wasn't relaxed. I wasn't relaxed in love. I was chaotic in love. And so my definition had to change and adjust. And obviously now I'm in a much better spot. But can we talk about that too? How do
Yes.
we make that sexy when maybe somebody listening to this has been through I went through and their definition was, ooh, I get off on that rush, of up and down and everything else.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up because I definitely hear that a lot. And it's just such a natural thing if you've grown up maybe with a family that has kind of shown you that as a dynamic of that it's just not a safe, relaxed environment of love, or yeah, love means certain things, or your past relationships have been that way. It's very easy to create drama on purpose, thinking this is what love is. And I think having these kinds of conversations just really helps to normalize that. And the biggest thing for me is just leading by example and helping women to see what healthy dynamics are of relationships, because I don't think until you see something different. You're like, wait, why is that? Why is that happening over there? And this is happening over there. But at the end of the day, I think for each woman listening, it's about really asking yourself, yeah, what does it feel like in the relationship? Does it feel emotionally safe consistently? Because if it is in that up and down space, that may feel passionate, but does that feel safe?
Mm,
Probably not. And to me, safety is a much more clear indicator of a healthy relationship than passion.
yeah.
Passion is lust, safety is love. I think about it, relationships as fire, and they talk about this all the time, right? It's going to go through different levels of evolution. A fire is not always going to stay hot flames. If you think about a campfire, in the beginning, all those all the sparks are just going to go flying, and it's going to be amazing and hot and sexy and fun. But then it builds into coals and embers, and it starts to build this really nice base that can sustain and last for months in a fire's lifestyle, right? Lifetime, just going and going, going with those coals. And that's what really creates the foundation for long-term stability in a relationship. And yeah, for me, being with my man for so long, having two kids, we have those passionate moments, but they're not as frequent as the beginning, but that to me is okay because we've been able to normalize this deep underlying just root of safety and security. And
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if that answers the question, but hopefully it can just help to bring a different perspective to it. And that if anyone is second guessing that and feeling like that's boring or that's too blah for them, to just really ask yourself in the long term, do you want to be in that chaotic space all the time, or do you want to be in a place of feeling safe?
Right. Yeah. And I think the thing I've learned too is that, like you said, like the safety is sexy. And until you can reprogram, like the work that you do, reprogram yourself to really understand that feeling that like balance in your nervous system feels so good. And when that feels so good and you're regulated, you can create anything you want from that place. Like that's
Yeah.
where the magic starts. And I
Yeah.
think we have it backwards. Like we need to create the framework almost to be that safety and that security. And like, how do I make that happen? And then from that place, you can add all the color and anything you want in
Yes.
there.
Yes.
But I think we reverse it. I almost feel like we reverse it. I don't know. I'm not a relationship coach, but that's how it feels to me. Is like
Yes.
the movies and everything portray that you need to have all the sparks all the time. And we never, we always are rooting for the passion, and all of that, but we're never rooting for the like, gosh, what happens after, you find your person, you really want to cultivate something that's
Yeah.
meant to last. So I love the fire analogy. I think it's
I think the most sexy thing for me right now is knowing I don't even have to think about my relationship. It's not even in my brain waves because it's so locked in. It's so just not even a question that I can go put all of my passion and power and creativity into my business, into my children, into everything else, and come back and curl up with my man every night and just feel so held and so loved and so just seen on a deep, deep emotional level. To me, that is so sexy and turns me on.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I didn't know that. Like I feel like going back, I had relationships and of course there were good moments. But I feel like it was like every several months at least there was something, there was some argument or there was some issue, or I just didn't feel like I could trust them fully, or I wasn't fully in. And there just was all of this dynamic happening. And now I'm like, whoa, this is very different. But also, you have to go through a lot to get to that place, or some of us do, especially if you didn't know the definition of what a good, healthy relationship meant, or, something kind of tweaked that. So I'm curious to hear because I feel like I've had friends, I've been in this place, you work with these people all the time, I'm sure, but relationships, if they're feeling stuck, you've got two people and they want to move forward. Um, how do you help them? What do they need to navigate through in order to get out of that icky, stuck feeling of maybe not being where, we're talking about this warm feeling. We're both at good spots in our relationship. But how do you work with a couple like that that's just feeling, gosh, I don't know where this is going to go. Is it going to go this way? Is it going to go that way? Where do we begin?
Yeah, well, it's a pretty broad question
I
because
know.
there could be a ton of symptoms underlying that.
Yeah. So maybe even
It
the
could
top
be,
symptoms. I mean, maybe that's a good
yeah,
place to start,
yeah. I mean, I think the biggest things where I see couples get stuck is either their communication breaks down. That's a big one. Either one person's just not feeling safe to actually drop into their heart and feel like they can share what they're really feeling. They either don't feel safe to share because they think their partner is going to react strongly and, attack them. Or they just have never really had that normalized in their life, so they don't know how to articulate their feelings. That's a really, really big one. Another area where couples get stuck is losing respect, one person losing respect for the other person. And that is a really, really tricky place to be because once you start to lose respect for your partner, it is a downward slope really fast. And that's something I really, really encourage is that no matter what struggles or little conflicts you're having with your partner, to always really give them the benefit of the doubt and always hold them in the highest positive light possible, knowing and trying to understand where they're coming from. Because if we start becoming their enemy, it's just really, really goes downhill. And a lot of the work I do is helping move through conflict in a loving, respectful way to bring people closer. I think sometimes the stuckness can also come from being too close together, becoming too codependent on each other, and losing yourself in the relationship, losing your identity, and going, I'm so intricately entwined in every minute of your day. I don't even have my own life anymore. And now I'm resenting you a little bit for that and feeling like there's no breathing air, no space to actually have anything to make the relationship move forward. So
Mm.
that's actually about kind of separating more and giving both people a chance to be a little bit more autonomous so that they can come back together and be independent people in the relationship. I think those are probably the biggest three that I see happen a
Yeah.
lot.
What would you say, might be happening when the intimacy kind of goes? Because I know you talked about, the respect. Once that starts to go, that's a pretty big issue. What I've heard is like when the intimacy goes, that's kind of the last thing to go in a relationship. I don't know that I actually believe that, but I'm like, there's got to be more happening there than just, oh, we're just not feeling it anymore.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Because there's the lust piece where it's just physical bodies wanting to get off, but then there's
Yeah.
also the emotional connection piece, and that's the intimacy piece. So if two people are feeling like they're losing that desire to intimately connect with each other, it means that their walls are up around their heart. And as soon as you start feeling your walls up around your heart, that's really exactly where I love to dive in and go, okay, what are those layers of mud? What has happened either with your beliefs, with your experiences that has made you start to feel like I need to close and I can't stay open around this person?
Yeah.
And it's completely possible to fix this. And if both people are open to it, but both people have to be willing to drop into that vulnerable space with each other.
Right.
And
Yeah.
takes a lot of rebuilding of trust and supporting each other in that moment. And it's so beautiful because as women, again, like I was saying, we get to really lead in this area. And I think that's what this modern day world has unfortunately kind of sucked out of us, is this ability to feel like we can feel safe in our feelings and lead as feminine leaders, not as masculine leaders. It's been so celebrated to be in our masculine, to prove, to drive, to strategize, to be the CEO types of people. But when it comes to being a feminine leader, it's actually about leading from the heart space, not the head space. And when
Mm,
we're leading from the heart space, we are actually the ones going first and saying, hey, here's all my icky, scary feelings. I'm holding them in my heart. I'm not dumping them on you. I'm not being emotional around you. I'm holding them in a very neutral energy, but I need to show you them so that you can understand me.
yeah.
And I'm holding them here and I'm showing you them here, not so that you can take advantage of them or throw them back at me, but so that you can really see me
Yeah.
and expose myself so that you can feel safe to do that too. And
Hmm.
when we have the strength, that takes incredible courage and strength. But when we can do that, that is the biggest indicator to men to go, okay, I guess it's safe for me to do that too. If you
Mm.
think about it, everywhere else in their life as men, there's no one modeling that to them, except maybe their mother, if they have a really sweet, loving, nurturing mother.
Mhm.
And so they also have been conditioned to hide their heart, close down, be tough, be strong, don't expose or show weakness. And when they can be around a strong feminine woman that says, I'm feeling really scared, I'm feeling really disconnected from you, I'm feeling really sad, like things are really dying between us. I don't want that to happen. They can go, oh, well, if she's willing to share that, then I guess that opens up the door for me to be able to share that. And
Yeah.
I've been able to see that firsthand with myself and with my clients that when I go first, they open up so much more and share what's really on their heart. And as soon as you are able to help support them in opening up their heart, it's like, boom, intimacy is back. That flame just goes even stronger than in those initial flames. That deep heart to heart, vulnerable, intimate moment of connection is like the deepest passionate flame you could ever feel. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of women never even get to experience that.
What would you say for relationships that, I don't know, some maybe top green flags, like some of the really good indicators that a relationship is healthy from your experience?
Yeah, those are great questions. Well, first things, I mean, I guess it depends on when this is happening in the relationship too. But I would say in general, if a man is future pacing and talking about the future with you and how he sees you in his future, that's a really, really good sign. However, if that's happening like in the first date or two, that might be a red flag. We
Yeah.
don't want him to come on too strong. But if you guys have been dating for 3 or 4 months and he's starting to include you in thoughts or feelings of the future, that's a really healthy sign. If he's able to meet you in the depths of your heart when you start volunteering little vulnerable moments of yourself or little feelings, and he's able to also drop in and go there too, that's a really, really good sign that he's got the emotional maturity and the emotional depth. A big one that has come to my my awareness recently, just from actually a girlfriend who's been struggling in her relationship, was just realizing how important personal growth is in
Mhm.
a partnership. She and her partner were not on the same page. She was very much into personal growth and he was very not. And I didn't realize even for that how important that is, that both people, if you are in this path of self-growth, which I know if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are,
Yeah.
how important that is in a partnership, that you have someone that's also interested in growing and developing and continuing to be the best version of themselves. So seeing them, pursuing not just their career, but their fitness and reading books that are challenging their mind and having deeper conversations about life, and even spiritual concepts is a really, really good sign. Um, so yeah, the emotional piece, the growth piece, other green signs. Obviously, I think just not being afraid to hide affection or to show affection and real actual care, whether that comes in the form of physical affection or words of affirmation or gifts or whatever, the love languages that works for you. Just so not being afraid to show that they care, because I think a lot of women tolerate and accept such breadcrumbs when really we can ask for what we need and what would feel good to us, and we can encourage it out of them more and more over time. And it's important that they're able to pick up on those cues and give you those things. At the end of the day, I know this sounds crazy, but men really do want to make us happy. They
Yes.
really do.
Yeah.
It fulfills this deep reptilian part of their brain that says, I'm a man. I can make my woman happy.
Definitely feel that. Yeah, for sure. I want to talk a little bit to the woman who is not in a relationship, who is looking to attract the relationship that maybe you or I have, whether it's man, woman, or whatever gender she so desires. Um, what advice would you have for this person in today's world where oftentimes I'm hearing things like online dating is the only way really to meet people and online dating sucks? So how would you, yeah, what advice would you have for that woman?
Yeah, yeah. Well, first off, I guess a shameless plug that I actually have a whole other podcast. I have two podcasts. One of my podcasts I'm doing with Australia's #1 dating coach, and it's called The Tinder Project. And it's a whole podcast about normalizing online dating and how fun it is, and like actually how you can really meet good men online. So you can always go listen to that and get some inspiration and hope that there are good men out there. I
Yeah.
promise. Um, but the other thing I would say is to really look at your own patterns of dating. This is the biggest key indicator of where things might be your block that can make a big shift for you. And for me, like I said, I didn't even know I was in this hook and fizzle pattern for 8 years until I finally started to take a look at it and go, there must be something with me that's causing me to stay stuck in this place. And even if I'm going out online dating and I'm meeting all these men and there's supposed to be all these great guys out there, I'm still attracting the same pattern. So really asking yourself, what is the pattern I've been in? Have I been in the hook and fizzle? Have I, been just meeting men that just want me for sex? Like,
Mhm.
what is it that I seem to keep attracting? Because there's something in there energetically that feels like a match. And when you can look at that, then you can go deeper into, okay, well, why am I attracting that? And what could I potentially heal or love on or clear out of myself so that I can shift how I'm showing up, shift the energy, shift the beliefs that I have about myself? Because that deeper subconscious energy is coming through all of your interactions, all your words, not even your words, just your image and your picture, your profile. When you're out walking the dog, it's coming out there too. So when you can really begin to shift the internal world of yourself, then the energy that comes out that people are receiving will be shifted as well. And
Yeah.
that's the world I love playing in, shifting the internal to shift the external.
Yeah, it's that is where the game changes, right? Like that's the work that I think I didn't realize either that needed to happen and needed to shift. And the other thing that has come to me before as kind of a download is the more interested I became in life, the more interesting I was to other people.
Mm,
And
yes.
so I wonder about that too for my single gals. Is there something maybe that they're not yet exploring? Like, are there just leaves not yet unturned, or you kind of get what I'm saying? Like, how can we
Passion.
explore
Are
light?
you passionate about life? Is that passion coming through? Yeah.
Right.
Or are you
Right.
going through the motions of life?
Yeah.
Because that is a dull energy versus a vitality energy.
Right. What do you, I mean, we've talked a lot and shared so many, there's just so much within this podcast. I feel like people could just take notes, but what do you kind of overall wish on the whole that women knew more or just knew about relationships?
Hmm.
I know.
Everyone's gonna hate me for saying this. It doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so hard. Hence the whole name, relaxing into love. It doesn't have to be so hard. The hard part comes because we allow our brain to overthink it and stress it and analyze every little bit of it. I talk about it as the crazy girl, right? It's like when we meet someone that we really get excited about, we almost lose that relaxed, intuitive goddess essence that we are. And we turn into this other version of ourselves that's like, oh my God, he hasn't called in a week. Or not even that. He hasn't called in a day.
Yeah.
What's happening? Where is this going? Oh my gosh, I'm losing myself. And that isn't enjoyable. And that makes it feel hard. But when we really are in such a place of being unattached, being so confident in who we are, and like you said, pursuing our dreams and our passions for life, and just knowing that we are attracting what we want and that we're trusting that it's all on its way to us, it does naturally click into place.
Mm.
But getting to that point is sometimes the most challenging part, and not knowing how to do that and feeling like that is so elusive to get to that energy space because there are so many deep fears and beliefs and experiences that we've had that weigh us down, that don't allow us to feel relaxed in this idea of relationships. But when we can let go of all that and really lighten up our own energy and trust ourselves, trust our intuitive guidance, trust that we're going to know when the right man walks into our life and how to handle that, it does become so much easier. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I'm so obsessed with the fact that you said that. Like, I could not agree more with this. It doesn't have to be hard. We always hear this, just kind of drives me crazy. Like, relationships are hard. Like, the wrong relationships are very hard because they're so exhausting.
Yes.
But like the right relationships, like, even think about friends. I'm just thinking about this as a whole, right?
Yes.
Like your friends that you just love talking to. Is it hard? I hope it's not too hard. I mean, you're going to have to put some energy toward them, but hopefully that's really enjoyable for the
Yes.
most part, right? And so I just think about that concept, and I think that is the differentiator, right? And I love that this is the essence of your work and how you're helping women just step into their own life, also in a way of ease and flow and
Yes.
fun and joy.
Yes.
So
Yes. And
I
it's been so amazing to see in my own life and in all my clients' lives just how everything in their life starts to just relax and flow with so much more ease.
ugh,
Career up enhancements and yeah, new opportunities and money and new
money.
friendships and yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We could talk for, I can't even believe we're almost like at our time. So, I know we have to wrap this up and I'm very sad about it, but I know you have, some amazing courses and, different things that you offer to your clients, but how can people maybe just get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to come find out more?
Yeah, well, first off, I have two beautiful free guided meditations that I think really can help women relax into love, both with themselves or with a partner. One is all about calling in the one, and the other one is called Love is Who I Am. It's about deepening into that
Mm.
self-love piece. So if anyone wants to just kind of get a little taste of my guided meditations, you can download those. I'll leave those in the show notes. And then I also would love to offer up just a free love breakthrough call for any women listening that want to just really talk to me personally. This is something I don't usually do, but I really want to be able to give time and space to women and get to really connect personally and just be able to hold space for you and anything that you're going through and just see how I can best support you. So if anyone woman wants to take me up on that, I'll leave the link there too.
Yes, we will have all these links available for you. And that is amazing and generous. And just, oh my gosh, I am so excited that you are helping our listeners with that. Thank you for that offer. So, as a tradition on this podcast, I've been asking my guests to leave a quote or just something that's coming through to them for the next guest, not knowing who it is. So I'd like to share with you the quote that the last guest left. And then I would like to invite you to share something that maybe is coming through for you as well. So
Mm.
The quote from the previous guest is meet people where they are, embrace exactly who they are, and allow them to be themselves and keep visualizing their highest self. I feel like this is in alignment with a lot of the work that you do. You really help meet everyone where they are and embrace them and visualize their full potential. So I love that quote for you. And I would love to just see what might be coming through for you. What would you like to leave for the next guest I get to?
I did not prepare for this. Let me just meditate on it for one moment and just feel what's coming up. I'm going to botch the exact quote, but it's something like, failure is not doing it wrong. Failure is giving up entirely. Something along those lines, right? Because there's something that people have that, oh, I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid that, I'm not doing it right. And you're never failing as long as you don't give up.
Yeah, right. I think that's so important for women to hear, especially right now in this world, that you get to do it your way and you are not failing. And yeah, it's only in giving up. I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I mean, especially with the relationship, I didn't even put those two boxes. I don't even know where that came from. I didn't put the boxes of dating along with that, but it does relate so much to dating because, to me, it's not about all the dates you've been on. Every single man that you meet is an opportunity for you to either learn something about yourself or to help that person learn something about themselves. You can use that quote too.
Yeah, that's a really good one too.
And so to me, if you can really take that perspective, it's not about, oh, I've been dating for 8 years and I haven't met the one yet, and there's something wrong with me and I'm failing at this. Even though, yes, maybe there's a pattern that you can heal and adjust, but every single interaction that you've had has helped either that soul on its journey path or helped you on your journey path. And that is not a failure. That is why we're here.
I love that so, so much, especially just for my own dating history. And I think women can really help heal some of that. And thank you so much, Teal. You're just a light and you're so warm. And I feel so like calm in your presence, calm and energized. It's a very great combination.
I feel so touched and honored that you sense all of this from me, given the fact that we don't really know each other that well, that apparently you can pick up on that energy. That's a huge reflection for me that I'm doing something right. Absolutely. And that I'm living through this energy and this example. And that's what I want to be. I want to be an example for the world. And I reciprocate everything. You are such a light. I love and appreciate all the work you're doing for the women on this podcast. It's so important to have these platforms to get women's names and words out to the world. And I am so grateful that you've given me this opportunity to share my gifts with the world.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you so much. It's been just my honor and privilege to get to have this conversation. Thank you for tuning into the show today. And before you go, I just have one quick favor to ask of you. There is a really simple way that you can help support me and help support this show, and that is to hit that follow button on whatever app you're listening to the show on. I'm trying really hard to level up the content and deliver unique value and amazing guests, and just hitting that follow button is the magic that will help continue to empower that. And remember that the world deserves to hear your voice and your stories, and you deserve a place at the top.